Well, it's a privilege for me to share my testimony with you, and I trust that you won't find it too boring. Okay, well, I want to start here by saying that even from a very small age, I had a passion for sick people. I just remember that I was very different from my brothers. You know, I've never been like a normal child. For instance, if we had to go to shops, we go for shopping, then me, my mom and my brothers, my brothers would normally go to a shop and they would look at the windows and look at all the baby toys and, all the boy stuff. But that never interested me. So I would always, if anybody would be sick in the shopping center, the very first thing that I would see is that. And my whole attention would be just been drawn towards the sick. So I would always pull my dad and say, "Daddy, look at that one," or "Daddy, look there." So all my life I knew I had a passion for sick people, and even as I grew up, that passion have always been there. So when I went into ministry, eventually in the beginning I just said, "God, I need for me to pray for the sick. The people need to be healed." So I entered into ministry, and over the years and time, I lost that passion of mine. I became so involved in ministry, in everything around ministry, but the thing that it was always there, but I just never paid attention to it. So ministry became a real burden, and I almost burned out in ministry. So one day a friend of mine gave me a DVD. I said, "Louw, I want you to look at this." So I said, "Okay." So I looked at it, and I saw it's a man of God up in Africa, and the very miracles this man did and the healings that took place, it really took me apart. I thought, this is like a real Bible days. This is the very same things that Jesus did. And I saw on this specific video clip, I saw people who've got big tumors all over their bodies, and as the man of God just walked past them, these things would either burst open or they would just fell out and fell on the floor. It was amazing. It was actually shocking. So I started to pray and said, "God, this is the very thing I always wanted to see in my whole life. This is the thing that burdened me so badly, but I've never seen it, and this is the first time." So I said, "God, if this is you, please, I want to be there." And an amazing 2 weeks later, I flew into that man's ministry. God just did it. So when I got there, it was first of all shocking. It seems like the ministry was like a black and white, different from ours. Everything there was just opened up, and there was nothing to hide. For instance, if the people, maybe a lady, many times you find ladies there who had big breasts, huge breasts, with breast cancer. So they just opened up everything and put the cameras there, and you just watch. And as the man of God come past, you see either the tumor is going to burst open, or the lady is going to start vomiting. Actually very gory. And some of the things that really knocked me is I saw a man there, a man from an African country, and he worked there, but he worked with a grinding machine, handy machine, and the blade exploded right in his face. And when it exploded, it ripped his whole face apart, and his left eye was completely out. So then, instead of going to doctors, the man decided to go to the man of God. It's like the Bible days. Let's go and see the man of God. So this man went there, but he had so much pain because everything was septic. His whole face was septic. So I really felt sorry for him, and the man of God at first did not pray for him. He just left him there, and I tried to help the man, to the best of my ability. I would dish up food whenever we eat. I would dish up food and just serve him with food, and I would help him to the washrooms. Whenever we had to climb staircases, I would help him. And then 3-4 days later, he was in a prayer line, and that specific day where I walked just behind the man of God, You know, I've been fooled. I've decided I've been fooled many times by the healing ministry. People advertise miracles and it's actually not miracles. So as for me, I want to be real. I want to see the real thing, either it's God or it's not God. So I've decided I want to stay next to the man of God. If God's going to do a miracle, I want to see it. If it's not a miracle, I want to see it. So that day I was next, 2 feet away from the man of God. And when he walked past this man, he stopped and he looked at the man, and he turned and he looked at me, and he looked back at the man, and I thought to myself, wow, have I done something wrong? What is going on here? So the man of God just stood there and he stretched his hand towards this man, and he just said, Jesus. As soon as he said Jesus, something happened. His whole eye, his face, he started water running, or body liquid started running out of his face. Just all over him. Like opening a water tap, water starts running. And I was shocked. I thought, man, come on, praying for somebody is something. But this is something else. So after I don't know how long, some minutes, I'm not sure, the man started to feel for a handkerchief, but he had nothing. So he looked at me and he asked me, help me. I had no handkerchief. So the man of God just looked at me, gave me some kind of a smile, and he took his handkerchief out and he told the man to dry himself. So the man started to dry himself. He first the eye and the face, then he started drying his arms. And suddenly he said something. He said, sir, I can see. So the man of God, just being the prophet, he just said, don't stop your miracle. Continue wiping your face. So the man was continue wiping his face. And so after some time he says, so I can see. The man of God again rebuked him and says, don't stop your miracle. Continue with your miracle. So after some time, for the 3rd time, suddenly the man just jumped into the air and started to scream. So I can see clearly now. And I don't know who was the most shocked, me or him. Even when I found myself, I was jumping higher than him. I was more excited than him. And right in front of me, I mean, not even a meter away from me, God had put an eye where there was no eyeball. God had healed the face. God brought a perfection there in front of me. So I just completely manifested. I think I had more TV cameras on me than on the man who received the healing. I was, for one moment I was just crying, and the next moment I thought, why do you cry? Are you nuts? I decided, no, it's not the time to cry. You should laugh. Then I would laugh, and while I was laughing, I would find myself crying again. So that's just some of the things I've seen. Another one, amazing things. One morning at 4 in the morning, they called me and they said there's a lot of people standing at the gate. 4 in the morning, thousands of people standing at the gate, want to come in. But in order for them to enter into a prayer line, they've got to come there with a medical certificate, proven their medical condition. And so I sat there and I filled in a form, I registered them. And an old lady sat in front of me, and she was blind, both eyes. So she told me that, if I remember correctly, it was about 8 years that she'd been blind, and she had come to the end of her life. Her family had rejected her. So she heard of a man of God, and she decided to go there, or to come to the man of God. So I asked her a question. I said, but lady, what if God's not going to heal you? So she said, well, in that case, I've decided to die. I'm going to come here and I'll die here. So eventually, obviously my spirit was just sad, and I had just so much compassion for the lady. But I registered her, and later that day, she was in a prayer line, and the man of God was walking, so I was behind him. When he came to the lady, he was just walking, and when he came to the lady, he looked at the lady, he looked at me, and I thought, how is this possible? How does this man know that there's something between me and her? So I just shook my head and said, I don't understand. But he stretched his hand, and he touched her forehead and said, Jesus. And the next minute, the lady was just overwhelmed. Her eyes opened up. And I thought, what? I mean, I've been a pastor for, at that time, I think about 13 years I've been a pastor. But I've never seen such a kind of thing. So, that's where God really touched my heart. Let me tell you another one that really touched me. One morning at 4 in the morning, as they opened the gate, they pushed somebody in a wheelbarrow. Now, it's just a young man, I guess at about 18, 19 years of age. But he was completely paralyzed from his neck downwards. So they pushed him in a wheelbarrow, and I felt so sorry for the man. The whole day he was just there in the wheelbarrow. So very late that afternoon, it was about 4 to 5 in the afternoon, the man of God was walking. Again, I was behind him. So when he came to the man, he told the people, he told the helpers, pick him up and put him on the floor. So they picked him up and they put him down on the concrete floor. And the man stretched his hand and he said, Jesus. He dropped his hand and then he walked off. So I decided to myself, no, if this is God, I want to see. I'm going to remain here. I don't want to hear later on that God healed him or something happened. The man walked. Now, I've been fooled for too long. I want to know the real thing. So I remained there. The man of God was walking all over praying for people. And maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes later, he came back. And his place next to me was open. So he came and stood next to me. And again, he looked at me. He looked at the man. He stretched his hand. And he took his toe and he just touched him and said, Jesus, you are free. He turned around and walked off for maybe 3-4 meters. And he looked around, looked back, and he told his helpers, pick him up and let him walk. And I thought to myself, I don't believe this. I don't believe this. I know this man is paralyzed. I know he cannot walk. How can he do this? So I stood there. I was actually in shock again. As I stood there, the helpers came and picked him up, and he stood by himself. And then later they took him by the hands and they tried to teach him how to walk. And it took him about a couple of minutes. And the man was walking, celebrating, clapping hands, walking. So I was in total shock. I mean, I'm a believer, but this was a little bit too much for me. So this was my introduction into the power ministry.